Welcome to the Vertical Sky Journal, the podcast that brings you everything you could ever want to know about Kilimanjaro. The climbing and the fitness, altitude and nutrition, the environment, the wildlife, and the people at the heart of the mountain. Today, a comparison with a difference. Kilimanjaro versus Aconcagua, and here is the secret. These two are not rivals. They are chapters of the same story.
Right, and it's a story we really need to dig into today, I think.
Absolutely, because if you're sitting at home right now, maybe poring over some expedition itineraries on your laptop, it is remarkably easy to fall into a very specific trap.
Oh, straight away, yes. It's a trap built on this fundamental misunderstanding of what a high mountain actually demands of you.
Yeah.
In our previous deep dives, we've often weighed up different peaks to ask, which mountain you should choose for your next adventure. But our focus here is, well, it shifts entirely.
We're looking at a progression, aren't we?
Oh, exactly. A journey that evolves. Our mission today is to completely dismantle that illusion that Kilimanjaro and Aconcagua are somehow similar undertakings just because neither of them require technical climbing ropes on their standard routes.
Right.
The order in which you climb them is actually the most important decision you will make in your entire high-altitude career.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So we should probably start by looking at the basic geographical profiles of both these mountains just to understand exactly why people mistakenly file them right next to each other in their minds.
Yeah, let's lay out the facts.
So Kilimanjaro, it stands at 5,895 meters in Tanzania. It holds the title of the tallest freestanding mountain on Earth. And the journey up it is, well, it's incredibly diverse.
It really is.
You walk through 5 distinct climate zones. You've got the dense, humid rainforest at the bottom. Then you transition up through that sort of eerie heather and moorland zone.
Which is beautiful, by the way.
Stunning. Then you cross the stark alpine desert, all volcanic rock, before finally ascending into the freezing Arctic conditions of the summit.
Right. And then you look at Aconcagua, which is located deep in Argentina's Andes. And Aconcagua reaches an imposing 6,961 meters.
Which is massive.
It's massive. Just to contextualize that height, it is the highest mountain in the world outside the continent of Asia.
Wow.
Yeah. And it holds the distinction of being the second highest of the 7 summits, just behind Everest. But the trap we mentioned earlier lies entirely in the technical specifications.
The ropes, or lack thereof.
Spot on. Both mountains feature standard routes. On Aconcagua, it's widely known as the normal route. And in good conditions, this route is strictly non-technical. You don't need to rope up. There's no complex glacier travel with crampons and ice axes.
And that's where the danger lies, isn't it? Because people read that in a brochure and they think, brilliant. They demand the exact same skill set.
They do. And it is so misleading.
I like to use an analogy for this, actually, to show how flawed that thinking is. It's a bit like assuming a multi-week, totally unsupported wilderness survival course in the Arctic is the exact same experience as, say, a catered walking holiday in the Lake District.
That's a brilliant way to put it.
Right. Just because both technically involve walking outdoors, the mechanics of putting one foot in front of the other might be identical, but the environment, the logistical support, the physical toll, they are just galaxies apart.
Galaxies apart. Because the absence of ropes on Aconcagua, it absolutely does not reduce the mountain to some simple high-altitude hike.
No.
It remains this massive, volatile, deeply unforgiving peak. Technical simplicity does not equal environmental simplicity.
It's such an important distinction.
It really is. Assuming a high-altitude environment is forgiving just because you aren't wearing a climbing harness it's a profoundly dangerous misunderstanding. A walking trail at 6,500 meters is inherently lethal if you aren't prepared for the invisible challenges.
Speaking of those invisible challenges, we need to talk about the air, or rather the lack of it. Let's look at the raw numbers for a second. Aconcagua is 1,066 meters higher than Kilimanjaro.
Roughly a kilometer, yes.
Right, a kilometer. Now, I want to push back on the mathematics of this for a moment, just for the sake of anyone listening who might be doing the sums. Because an extra kilometer of walking at sea level, well, that's, 15 minutes of mild effort on a Sunday afternoon?
Barely even that, yeah.
Exactly. So why does that same single kilometer, when it's up near the stratosphere, completely break a physically fit climber? We're clearly not just adding 20% more physical effort to the day here.
Oh, absolutely not. We aren't just adding effort, we are crossing a critical physiological threshold into a completely different physical world.
Right.
Once you push above 6,000 meters, the standard rules of human survival they fundamentally change.
How so?
Well, at nearly 7,000 meters, the air holds barely 2/5 of the oxygen available at sea level.
2/5? That's
Yeah.
astonishing.
It is. The body doesn't just find it harder to perform tasks, it begins to actively shut down non-essential internal functions in a desperate bid to survive. For instance, your appetite just completely collapses.
But wait, why does the appetite disappear so drastically? Because surely your body needs those calories more than ever to generate heat and sustain energy for the climb.
You would think so, yes. It desperately needs the calories. But digestion is an incredibly oxygen-intensive process.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so when you are starving for air, the brain performs this ruthless internal triage. It diverts every bit of available oxygen to the most critical organs. The heart, the lungs, the brain. The digestive system is essentially just powered down.
That sounds utterly miserable.
It creates a truly grim reality on the mountain. You have to force down food when your stomach is actively rejecting the very concept of eating. Imagine trying to chew and swallow a dense, frozen energy bar at 6,500 meters while your lungs are heaving as if you've just run a sprint.
Nauseating.
It is. It's a nauseating, exhausting chore. But you have to do it to keep moving.
And it's not just the food, is it? That lack of oxygen ravages your ability to recover at night. When you read the expedition reports for Aconcagua, they constantly talk about sleep thinning to the state of mere dozing. What's the actual mechanism behind that?
Right. That is driven by something called periodic breathing or Cheyne-Stokes respiration.
Okay, what is that exactly?
Well, when you fall asleep, your respiratory rate naturally slows down. But at extreme altitude, this slowed breathing causes your blood oxygen saturation to plummet to dangerously low levels.
Because there's already so little oxygen in the air to begin with.
Exactly. So your brain suddenly panics, it senses impending starvation, and it literally shocks you awake with a sudden, desperate gasp for air.
Oh, wow. So you wake up gasping.
Yes, and this brutal cycle happens repeatedly throughout the entire night. You might spend weeks up there shivering in a sleeping bag, jolted awake every 10 minutes. You never enter the deep restorative phases of sleep that repair your muscle tissue.
That is terrifying. You must accumulate a massive sleep debt before you even start the summit push.
A compounding sleep debt, yes.
You know, it makes perfect sense if you think of the human body like a car engine. If you take a powerful, finely tuned engine and severely restrict its air intake, it doesn't matter how much high-octane fuel you pump into it.
Right, it's going to struggle.
It will choke, sputter, and eventually just stall completely. And that means the physical margin for error narrows to almost nothing. I'd imagine the cold bites significantly harder, too, because your body lacks the vital oxygen to generate its own internal furnace.
That mechanical visual is absolutely spot on. And this is exactly why the order of these mountains matters so much. Kilimanjaro is the place where you first learn what altitude does to your specific body.
The classroom.
Precisely. It's the environment where you discover how your stomach reacts, how a low-grade altitude headache feels behind your eyes, and how your legs perform when deprived of air.
In Aconcagua.
Aconcagua is the place that asks if you actually learn those lessons. It does not teach you about altitude. It tests your ability to manage it under extreme duress.
Which brings us perfectly to the logistical reality of being on the mountain. Because if your body is actively refusing calories and denying you sleep at 6,500 meters, imagine how much harder it is when you are the one responsible for your own survival logistics.
It's a game changer.
Let's compare the expedition styles. Kilimanjaro is a fully supported trek. Over 6 to 9 days, you walk through those beautiful climate zones, but crucially, a dedicated local crew carries the entire camp infrastructure.
The support on Kili is just comprehensive. The crew cooks warm, nutritious meals 3 times a day. They build your evening environment, they set up the tents, they boil the washing water, they filter the drinking water.
Often before you've even arrived at camp.
Exactly. Your primary job as a climber is to walk, eat, hydrate, and just focus entirely on your body's acclimatization process.
It's a profound luxury of time and focus, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
You are given the physical and mental space to adapt to the thinning air. But Aconcagua presents a grueling daily reality.
Because even on a professionally guided expedition there, you transition into becoming a working member of the team.
You do. You are undertaking heavy load carries between multiple high camps.
Which means what, practically?
It means you are hauling maybe 20 kilograms of equipment, food, and fuel up the mountain in heavy double boots, burying it in a cache in the rocks, and then returning to a lower camp just to sleep.
Just to do it all again.
Just to repeat the exhausting process all over again to acclimatize and move the expedition up the mountain. The daily chores, I mean, they are utterly exhausting. You are arriving at a prepared camp. You are often digging tent platforms out of frozen, unyielding scree and ice.
Wow.
And you are responsible for melting snow for all your drinking water.
I think people underestimate how hard melting snow actually is at altitude.
Oh, completely. Melting enough snow to hydrate a tent of 2 climbers takes hours of sitting, hunched over a small, sputtering stove in the freezing cold. You are surviving genuine, punishing cold for the better part of a month, doing manual labor at an altitude where simply tying your bootlaces leaves you absolutely breathless.
And then there's the weather, which just amplifies the misery. Kilimanjaro offers broadly stable, predictable weather. I mean, the summit night is always cold, often dropping well below freezing, but the patterns are reliable. You can plan an itinerary and confidently stick to it.
True.
But Aconcagua is ruled by the notorious viento blanco, the white wind. Why exactly is it called that?
It's named for the visual terror it creates on the upper mountain. You have these hurricane-force winds that scour the exposed ridges, and they rip the surface snow and ice into a blinding horizontal blizzard.
Even on a sunny day.
Yes, the sky above might be perfectly blue, but the mountain itself is entirely obscured by a furious, deafening cloud of white ice crystals.
That sounds apocalyptic.
It's famous for excellent reason. It flattens expedition tents. It snaps reinforced poles. It creates extreme wind chill that drops ambient temperatures to terrifying levels, making frostbite an immediate threat within minutes.
Then I imagine it completely ruins your schedule.
Completely. It dictates everything. It opens or closes summit windows entirely on the mountain's terms.
Which highlights a massive psychological difference for the climber. Because on Kilimanjaro, you largely beat the mountain by adapting your body. You maintain a slow, steady pace, you hydrate, and you summit. But on Aconcagua, physical adaptation is just the entry ticket. You need the mountain's permission.
You really do.
You must wait, sometimes for 4 or 5 days on end, trapped in a tiny nylon tent at a high camp, just reading the same paperback book over and over, hoping the wind will ease. That waiting game must drain your morale and your physical reserves incredibly fast.
It absolutely drains you.
Oh.
And that waiting game factors heavily into the time and the financial cost of the expedition as well.
Let's talk about that.
Well, Kilimanjaro requires roughly 10 days door-to-door. Aconcagua demands the better part of a full month away from work and family. It's climbed in the southern summer, stretching from November to February, on a specific permit issued by the Argentine authorities.
And naturally, it costs somewhat more due to that extended duration and the complex logistics of a 3-week expedition.
Exactly. But for both mountains, there is a universal rule regarding expenditure that we always emphasize. You must always pay for the properly run, ethical version of the expedition.
We can't stress this enough.
The cheap operator inevitably saves money in the precise places that keep you alive when things go wrong.
Right. It might be the experience of the guides, the standard of the tents, or the emergency medical protocols they carry.
Saving a few $100 is never worth risking your fingers, your toes, or your life.
Never. So, having painted this incredibly vivid, frankly intimidating picture of Aconcagua's immense logistical and environmental challenges, the discussion logically resolves into why Kilimanjaro is the mandatory prerequisite.
Yes, the order of things.
Because guides working on Aconcagua often share a very specific, sobering insight, don't they? When they assess who struggles on the mountain, it's rarely the physically unfit.
No, it's not the unfit, it's the inexperienced.
It's the climbers who are discovering for the very first time at 6,000 meters exactly how their body handles thin air.
And that is incredibly dangerous. If you are learning that you are highly susceptible to severe altitude sickness, or discovering that you completely lose the will to eat when deprived of oxygen, you are in immediate life-threatening danger up there.
You're just too high. The environment is far too hostile to be learning basic lessons about your own physiological responses.
Precisely. Those lessons are far better learned 1,000 meters lower in a safer managed environment. And Kilimanjaro serves as the perfect classroom for this exact reason.
Because it still offers real serious altitude. Approaching 6,000 meters is no small feat. It's a massive physical undertaking.
Huge. But it provides that altitude inside a supported, forgiving structure.
Yeah.
You have a dedicated crew watching over you, assessing your gait, monitoring your oxygen saturation, checking your overall health, twice a day.
It's meticulously designed to help you succeed safely or evacuate you safely if your body just cannot cope.
Right, so arriving in Mendoza to begin an Aconcagua expedition requires profound self-knowledge. You must already know who you become in the dark, freezing, exhausting hours of a hard summit night.
You have to know the mental tricks required to force yourself to eat when every fiber of your being wants to reject the food.
Exactly. A successful Kilimanjaro summit provides the exact curriculum vitae that Aconcagua demands and respects.
This really brings to mind the concept of mountain maturity.
Oh, mountain maturity is a vital concept. Because cardiovascular fitness, well, that can be built in a local gym. You can train your legs on stair machines for hours on end. You can build incredible stamina running at sea level.
But altitude experience.
Altitude experience can only be earned on the mountain. You simply cannot simulate the psychological resilience required when the air thins, your head pounds, and every single step feels like running a marathon in sand.
You have to earn that resilience through direct exposure. It's a quiet internal fortitude. It's knowing you can endure the misery of the cold, the lack of sleep, and the nausea, and still maintain the mental clarity to safely place one foot in front of the other, hour after hour.
Precisely. And this is why these two mountains are not rivals. They are rungs on a ladder.
I love that. Rungs on a ladder.
Kilimanjaro is the absolute foundation for everything above it. It's arguably the greatest first big mountain on Earth. It's high enough to be a genuine, life-changing achievement, yet kind enough when approached properly and respectfully to be achievable for a determined walker.
And Aconcagua.
Aconcagua is a proper, severe expedition to nearly 7,000 meters. It's one of the finest next steps in global mountaineering, but only once altitude is a language your body already speaks fluently.
That's a brilliant way to phrase it. The ultimate measure of success on high mountains. It's not just reaching the summit and taking a photograph holding an ice axe.
No, not at all.
It's having the hard-earned self-awareness to know exactly how your body and mind will react when the air thins and the margins of safety completely disappear. Climb Kilimanjaro first. Learn yourself up high. And if the fire is still burning at the gate when you return, Aconcagua will be waiting, and you will meet it ready.
Spot on. That is the only way to approach it.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, do subscribe so you never miss the latest from the Vertical Sky Journal. You will find a full written version of this episode over on our journal at vertical-sky.com, and we would love you to come and say hello on Instagram, where we are at verticalsky, TZWU. Until next time, pull, and keep dreaming of the mountain.